here. So the idea around the MAPLE program and ISC, and primarily for Joy and Alex on this one, because you guys have had the mentees in your workplace, what do you think was the key item that ISC or the MAPLE program talked about with the mentees, explained to the mentees about your workplace? What was it that they did that made them successful once they got to you guys?
I think for us, having a representative meeting with both the mentor and the mentee in the same room before the whole thing started was a big thing. So the process that we went through is that we gave the representative what we're looking for in a candidate, what kind of background we need. They sent us resumes, we interviewed by ourselves, and we made the selection. Once the selection was made, then we sat down with the representative and the mentor, and then we went through the expectations, make sure that both parties understand what it involves. So I think before the whole thing started, having that support from the representative, making sure that the mentor understands what's going on, the mentee understands, I think that was good. And then the follow-up too, every couple of weeks they would ask us how it's doing. They would contact the mentee, then contact myself, contact the mentor. So there was a constant follow-up to make sure that this was a successful experience.
Right, and yeah, and I totally agree with that. It's a discussion, not a piece of paper that this is my qualification, that I'm looking for someone. But an add-on to that too is well, other than the follow-up, which is great, it's my sit down with David, for example, is it's not only talking about the task. This is a very new approach to me, and to me this is where Maple 2.0 makes a difference. We talk about the history of the company, what's the direction, where are we going, and how can this person relate to such value. So I'll give you an example. In my case, I know I would tell, for example, Dave, I need somebody who is good with Excel, let's just say, because it's intern, I need somebody who's a good analyst. But then I give more than that. This is what's happening with a company. We are in a matter of merger and acquisition, cultural transformation, new tools, and I need somebody who can actually man this. So it's beyond what the task is. It's the background that somebody listens to you, and then such candidate gets that heads up. So when that heads up is there, when there's pressure in the middle of it, that was already laid out somehow ahead of time, maybe not accurately, but basically that person is up for the challenge. And just so you know, it's kind of the fine print that seems to be kind of larger in Maple 2.0.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that the representative, they know the individuals very good, and they're being honest about what they're good at, about their weaknesses. So they're not trying to hide anything, they're not trying to sell the candidate. That was a big thing for me. They were being honest, that these are the weaknesses, these are the things that this person is good at. So that's something that I really appreciated.
I like that, yeah.
That's good there. Dirk, you mentioned a little bit of the idea around the co-mentorship or reciprocal mentoring and things like this. The idea around having both parties be the mentor and one being the mentee, one being the mentor, and then flip-flopping the roles type of thing, right? What do you think in those cases are the benefits to the traditional mentor? The older person that has been the mentor, has been dealing with this, what's it like to be sort of flipping that and all of a sudden being the mentee on the other side?
Well, part of that idea came by when I was mentoring somebody. And I was learning a lot, start asking questions because this person came with different ideas. And, long and short would be exactly the same as the mentee, because I was at the same time the mentor on certain aspects, and then I was the mentee on the other aspects. So I learned a lot about the different cultures, different approaches, different way of communication, different forms of decision making, how the relationship then became a mutual respectful relationship, because now it was not just a learner, it was a colleague, somebody that can also taught me some stuff, a soundboard that I could use and say when I work with this target population as a manager, what would be the way, how do I sound when I say things like this, because like, no, you, like maybe in this population you're a bit harsh. Get more participation, they get more of conversation out of it, and it strengthened my management skills a lot by just going into these sessions and say, oh, I'm more comfortable. So, yeah.
Yeah. Question from earlier.
Oh, sure. Yeah, actually, I have a question for Dirk. Yeah, on one of the first few slides that you had, you defined diversity, which you mentioned that differences in terms of values is also recognized as part of diversity. On the other hand, usually companies have their own set of values, the corporate values, and they prefer that all the employees are basically following those specific set of values. So in terms of addressing diversity while the values of the company are being appreciated, what is your recommendation? I mean, is that shifting the personal values towards the corporate values, or just communicating all those areas, making sure that the potential for clash is minimized?
Okay, what I was referring to was specifically an area where we sometimes see that coming forward is in big capital projects. So you come in, and in every organization has got their footprint or their values or methodologies how they execute the project. You bring in people from all over the world. They're very, experienced in projects, but they do things very different, and there's always conflict then on it. So my recommendation would be there's a lot of understanding that need to be created and respect around the corporate values. So I work within a specific organization, and that we're cost sensitive, and we're very participative in our decision making and collaborative. And you come in and you're very singular in your approach on decision making. You need to understand that this is how this organization, this project organization structure work, and this is a methodology. I don't ask you necessarily to change, but I ask you to be effective in the situation and understand it. And in our experiences, people may not totally change, but they may understand, and then they may respect, and then they will behave, appropriately. They may go back in the next project. I've got one specific example, a great Italian guy. He was very colorful. He came in and he would explain things, but it was just, sometimes it was just like, whoa, man, just slow down. So, we mentored him, and he became, because he was a brilliant person. And he understood it, and he calmed down, and he followed more the appropriate behaviors. He went back to Technip, do a project there in Italy. Wow! He was just back in very colorful. So I don't think I want to change all the people. I just want them to understand and respect and behave appropriately.
That's good on that side. One of the things that I came across today, and that's why I wanted to open the discussion, I think, for all three of the panel members, is the idea around, because so many companies now are like this, they are so multinational, they are made up, their leaders, when they got together, it's 10 different people from 10 different countries, 10 different cultures, all being meshed together to create that company culture. And now that we take a look at this, and you have different companies coming in and saying, this is our company culture, and yet the traditional way of looking at mentorship programs and diversity programs and kind of having the two dovetail, it's been really more around the idea of the country culture, right? We want people to integrate to become Canadians. But yet when you look at the companies that you all work for, they are not Canadian companies. They are not made up by Canadians with Canadian culture done this way. They are worldwide, international companies that have a very different perspective on things. How exactly do you think that will change the mentorship dynamic that goes on, where you've got people coming from a wide variety of countries into a country that's one way, but maybe working for a company that's the other? How do you think that will change as we go forward in the next 5 to 10 years?
I know how we try to deal with it. We definitely change the selection criteria of the mentorship, or the mentors first.
Okay.
So traditionally, we take a really experienced technical person, growing up in an organization. Now, if we're in a multicultural situation or a team that's, got not the traditional way how it's compiled, we would rather go and find somebody that's at least reflecting a little bit the team characteristics. So we want to find somebody that's international exposure, probably that came to Canada and went through the adaptational process and can mentor that, because I think that the whole concept of corporate culture has also changed. Corporate cultures is so fluid lately. A lot of the companies is not existing from the 1800s anymore. It is new companies, mergers, like 5-year-old is a long time, and then they merge and then you spun off. So that's very fluid sometimes. So the same division in Canada will have a little bit of Canadian culture to it. It will have a little bit of the mother company, the holding company to it, and it will be having a little bit of a divisional culture to it. And how you define it, it's ill-defined. We identify people, you're successful in this. Somehow you figure it out. We don't know exactly why, and you start bringing people together because it's just not that simple to define anymore.
May I add a quick point?
Sure.
Actually, one of the new concepts that has been introduced in leadership is about the leadership climate or the personal climate. So we always talk about the corporate culture, while each individual has got his or her own climate. And that is actually what makes it interesting. That's a breeze of new fresh air. When you already defined the framework in terms of corporate culture, but those climates are helping to move it forward and basically have a more innovative approach.
I really enjoy this question. Yeah, thank you. Because in Schneider Electric, we love to be questioned, or we like rotating people, and it's not that we like conflict. It's just we just like mixing people around because it's also somehow an advantage or a benefit to the business, because people feel like, okay, we're going to rotate. I need to make sure I'm transitioning with a clean slate here, or I'm giving something like it. So we have that tendency, right, that we clean our plate before we move on because we're rotating and you don't want to look bad. So that was an advantage somehow. And then, to that point, there has to be that check and balance, it's governed, whatever. And then later, where this software team that I am supporting right now comes to the picture. It's a merger and acquisition. We're not only challenged geographically, but also the merging and acquisition. So lately, in the last 2 years or a year, there's the legacy Talbot. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, so software. Then there's a legacy Invensys, which is a European also software. We united it, and now we call it as a software within Global Solutions business entity, as one of those business entities among the many of Schneider Electric family. So the acquiring company is Schneider Electric, but we have legacy Invensys as the acquired. However, it is a very global perspective that it is new to them to adapt to a national perspective. They've never heard of such. And this is an amazing experience. I thought I would only read it in a book. So a manager actually said, what's wrong with Schneider Electric Canada? Why do they just not understand? It's a global solutions business, and we don't make our decisions because this is the country. So there's that thing, and there's the resistance. Even though it is an acquired company, and the acquiring company is leading the leadership temperature, the leadership climate that you say, there's this adjustment that we have to do. So that's two of those challenges that's going on. So how we're doing that right now is I don't want to be pessimistic, but it does take time and it is a challenge. So it will not go away for now. It will be always present. We will always have our ethnocentricities. So how we do it is, I'm doing double agents in my case. I probably would call it political personality. So when it comes to a Canada audience, I'm basically the regional HRBP for Canada for any other businesses, even though if it's not software, because I am present in Canada. So a legal, for example, a legal HR business partner supporting the legal team. She's in Spain. She would contact me. I don't support legal team. I'm supporting software marketing software team. So anyway, so she would contact me and say, okay, and this is just an example. I need to implement, let's just say termination, or I need to let go of this person. What are the legislation in Canada? What are the kind of wording that I should do in this letter so that it's not that bad, or things like that, to mitigate risk and legal and all that stuff. So that's an example where we collaborate with regional HR business partners, even though we don't directly work with them in that sense. So it's a really nice family, and a lot of, we call it matrix organization, a lot of dotted lines, a lot of teamwork that is not really even in my success measures at the end of the day. So it's quite a very outside the box kind of experience, and if not, it will be very hard because you'll be all alone. In my case, I have every weekly, every Friday I have a call with Italy because she's my Europe person. I need to understand what's going on there. I directly, handle the leader that her leader actually reports to my leader. So it's things like that, right? So there's a lot of collaboration in the HR team. So it becomes a human resources, definitely a challenge to manage. And I won't lie. During really urgent stuff and really like I need managers to get this done, and and I just send an email all over the globe. Yeah, and then HR business partner and the director, because I report to the North America director. However, I handle sub business partners in regions, but then the director in EMEA, for example, like in Europe, she would email me and copy my manager saying there was an email that is not in your scope, something like that. So there's things, and we just are not afraid to say, you know what, forgive me, lesson learned, and I'll collaborate next time. It's just that we have a very tight time frame. Tomorrow is a deadline, and I don't have the time to go through all the chain, and sometimes it takes risk, and that's the fun of being in. Anyway, it's just a day in my, a little bit of a glimpse of a day in the life of somebody in a matrix organization, and not necessarily written down. Yeah.
With the changeover in 2015, Alex, was there much of a change when you had these two large companies, direct competitors, main competitors, merging together? How did that sort of work when it came to things like these mentorship type programs, right? How did that sort of feeling work for those two?
With Lafarge, mentorship has always been pretty informal, starting with the onboarding. So in our onboarding process, when we have someone new with the company, someone who's Kenyan or someone from another country, someone who was with Lafarge in another country, they all go through the same type of informal process where we would get that person to meet with people from HR, people from sales, people from marketing, people from different product lines. And then kind of naturally, they would identify themselves mentors in different areas, or even the mentors, even myself, sometimes when there's someone who's from Quebec, which is a different culture itself, then myself, I'm gonna have the tendency to say, okay, this is how it works here. You'll see that things are a little bit different. So I think it's very informal. It feels very natural. With the merger, yes, we have people who were in Switzerland, now in Calgary. I think we're still going through the same process. Okay, today you have to meet with VP Marketing, tomorrow you meet with VP HR, and then kind of naturally we're getting a good blend, a good mix of people, and naturally they understand the differences, how it works in Calgary, how it works in France or in Switzerland, what are the differences. If we feel that there's still a gap in their understanding, that's where, again, naturally, there's going to be someone who's going to act as a mentor. So this is how we do it here. And by observing behaviors of that person, when we feel that person doesn't seem comfortable in certain situations, we kind of, again, naturally go to them. So with the merger, I don't think it's different. We get more people at some point when the turnover is not very high, then you work with the same people. With the merger, we've got a lot of new people in the company, so we had to do that process again where okay, things were working a specific way in Holcim, in Lafarge Canada it's different, this is why it's different, and then it's a discussion. So people in Holcim will say, yeah, so you've been doing it that way for 20 years, at Holcim we're doing it that way. Sometimes there's a little bit of friction that happens for sure, but it's a process. We're still going through that process, but I feel that everything is pretty fluent, pretty natural for us.
Excellent. Another follow-up question for Alex as well, but the individual with the aggregates experience. If that guy had just sent in his resume to you
Yeah.
10 years great experience from China with his background, you get his resume. Why not hire him directly versus seeing him through a program like this? What was the benefit of, and the only wording I'll use around it is test driving it. Why was the benefit of having the test drive with him so influential in your guys' decision? And maybe explain a little bit too about what this guy's done since he went through the program.
To be totally honest, within that aggregates division, the turnover rate is not very high. So even if we would have received that resume, even if that person had 10 plus years of experience, if there was no vacancy, no position available, we probably wouldn't have that person work with us. Just because, again, the turnover rate is quite low within that industry. And it is the same thing that happened with the merger. We've had people from other, from OSIM in other countries coming with us. So there were not opportunities for that person within our division. So that's why it was beneficial for that individual to get that experience. There was no way for him to get that experience through a full-time position because there was no full-time position available, and still within that division, there's no position available right now that we feel we need someone with that type of background. So right now, I know that he was actually applying with one of our competitor for their aggregates division. So I believe that will be very beneficial. He has experience with Lafarge aggregates. He's applying with the competitor. He's also doing some design work with a company in the US. So he's keeping himself busy. But yet the only reason why we were not able to keep that person or to initially hire that person full time, there was no opening. That being said, in other divisions, we've had people who had no Canadian experience, really strong background in one of the product line, and we hired them. So it's just a matter of a good timing.
Other questions from the crowd?
Well, first of all, like as a newcomer, when I came into Canada, I was looking for something like the Maple program. Because as a newcomer experience, yes, I do have like 10 years plus of experience, but it's international experience. So it was very interesting to find a program where will give you the first steps into an employer where you can prove yourself, and also it will be a mutual benefit. So, and it's a great thing, even if you are like the best mentee and you're so keen, it takes a two-way mutual respect and understanding. So it's a great job that you mentors has also engaged your mentees to work with you. So my question would be is like, how long do you think the mentorship period has to be to achieve a fruitful relationship with the mentee and also to bring in the benefit to the organization?
Well, for us, I think the maximum for the program is 12 weeks, right? So we want the full 12 weeks. There is a learning curve. The people need to get to know the corporate culture, get to know the team that they're working with. So there is definitely a learning curve. I feel that it took probably a good 3 weeks, a minimum of 3 weeks for that person to get really comfortable, to get going in that role. So I think the longer the internship can be, better it is. So for us, we went the full 12 weeks, and it was also the type of project that these individuals were working on. There was no way that they would have been able to achieve the objective within just a month. So we went the full 12 weeks. We were still flexible with the schedule. Some of them, they had other commitment, so we wanted to be flexible, but we were very clear with them. This project, we think that within 3 months you're going to be able to achieve it. So we did go the full 12 weeks.
That's great. You're maximizing the 12 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's really quite a challenge, right? Because in my case, I really hope we can just do more than 12 weeks cost-free, but at the same time, we can't keep somebody cost-free beyond that. Like, if you think about it, it's just not fair. So we need to work around those parameters. So thank you for sharing that. So that's one factor. The other factor on my end, with my experience with Luisa, and I'm not the one who actually got her in. Two other HR business partners and the transition, and they came onto the picture, and then just got her also absorbed. We had some challenges because our approach was different, right? And we were ambitious. We had very aggressive time frame to give her the Career Matrix project. excuse me, and then that there are factors where operations are very busy, and then the meeting of the project team was rescheduled, and it was just, okay, we're you know, how many weeks and when are you gonna be, you know, having your last day? It was just really thrilling. The good thing on our end was at that moment I was able to get her absorbed, so there was a continuum and a transition to having her work with me. It's something like that. So that worked out, but yeah, it really depends on the objectives and the goals, and as we may have discussed before too, your goal. Make it practical and as measurable as you can. In our case, we try to make it measurable, but it was too ambitious. But somehow we definitely reached to a point, and it was great. She was able to present what was also part of our town halls. So my experience is not typical 12-week on my end. And that is one of the weaknesses where if an employer is not really well laid out on the plan, because then that's a danger, right? Because if you kind of have, I understand the intern coming in and she would have this expectation, and then it didn't finish because of the timeline. It's just it doesn't feel fulfilling at the end of the day, and you wanted to put this in your resume that you made a difference, you had a completion. So that's I believe how we could have made it better on our end for her 12 weeks, which was also cool, was to actually practically, this was our learning, it was about the commitment of the team that she was collaborating with. It was not necessarily her fault. So it was the commitment of the employer side that we needed to do that homework, that hey, we're committed to a 12-week here. I need your word on that, because this person committed to her 12 weeks to put this in her resume also as having made a difference to our company. So that's a two-way that's really, really big. Does that answer your question? I hope I added. Thank you.
Dirk, anything to add?
Yeah, we didn't participate necessarily in this program, but we bring in lots of people for work experience and internships. It differs. We believe probably 6 months to 8 months that we bring people in, because they need to learn a lot about the organization. They need to learn a lot about the profession. We want to give them good work experience, that if there's a vacancy we can hire them, or in the future we can hire them. So we tend to bring them in longer, but it's paid. So it's a minimum, it's not a high level paid job, but it is paid, and therefore we get it.
Any other questions?
What are your expectation or criteria for people that are coming into the program? You as mentor organizations, and I'm thinking specifically of Alice, the Aggerhead guy, 10 years experience. So I assumed a lot of what he was learning was the more international way of doing it, we'll call it. But what if he didn't have near that much experience? Would you consider him? Like, what are you looking for in a mentoree?
Well, for that specific individual, we actually sat down with him and looked at what he was able to do, what he wanted to work on. So it was a very direct conversation that we had with him. It was, okay, this is what you can do, this is what you can offer, this is what you're gonna do, this is the project that is gonna be assigned to you. So if we would have had someone only had 2 or 3 years of experience, it would have been something different, because we actually took the time to sit down with that person and say, here's the expectation based on your experience.
Okay. So certainly what I'm hearing is you would consider people with less experience.
Oh yeah.
Just the role would be different.
Exactly.
That's refreshing.
I do have one question though. How do you deal with the expectations? I also came to Canada at the point and started looking for a job, and then did some work. And here I do this internship, and then they tell me, well, no job, sorry. Have you got any experience, people in the room with that?
Oh yeah, so Maple Leaf is one program that offers internships to employers or works with employers to create internship opportunities. There are several other programs that are similar. And we, in our program, we make it very clear from the information session for all of our applicants forward that there is no guarantee that there's a job at the end of the program. We stress you will gain this, you will gain experience, you will gain a network, you will gain, you know, an added component to your resume, but there is no guarantee that there's a job. And we have to keep repeating that. And
Yeah.
I mean, we're all human, and yes, people go into a work experience or an internship hoping that there will be an opportunity at the end. So we become a little bit of a broken record, and we certainly do advocate for our clients with the employer, but I think people are fairly clear, at least in their minds, maybe not in their hearts, but in their minds, that there's no guarantee that there's an opportunity.
And in my presentation, I did mention managing expectations, especially through the interview process. So we did probably 6 or 7 interviews, and some of the candidates, when it was time for them to ask questions, it was all about full-time opportunity at the end of the internship. Would they be able to apply for a job through the internship? So it seemed to us that some of the individuals, they just wanted to get a foot in the door. They were not seeing the value of the actual internship. So it's our job as an organization through the interview process to make sure to manage expectations. And it's also a little bit of an immigration services job to do that as well. When they meet with people who want to be mentees, and they have to be very clear. Because we've had people through the interview process who still they were more interested into getting in the company instead of gaining experience.
And I really like that question, Dirk, and thanks so much for asking that. Great point, Alex, and thank you for mentioning the no guarantee, because we can't repeat it enough. But the thing is, it's not just the word no guarantee, the expression no guarantee, it's how, this is my learning. There are 2 points that I want to share. One is how I'm daily interacting with this person, because I'm a very transparent person. And if I don't watch it and I kind of give hope, feeding hope every day, that's my fault. Things like that, right? And that's wrong, that's wrong. And then the second point is the setting expectation part. At that setting of expectation, just because you're my intern, it doesn't mean it's only up to me 100%. It's a 50-50. At the end of the day, you evaluate me too. Do you like to be with us? And then at the same time, you know, then we like to be with you, or we don't like to be with you. Then we meet at that somehow or whatever, and then there's the decision making. Was there an opportunity, or we will? And coming from recruitment, it's a funny example where I can do an analogy where and I'm not bragging. I can have an applicant that didn't get a job but seems to have just gotten out of a party and having high and happy face out of the phone. And I was like, did I just let him go as an applicant and he didn't get the job and he's so happy? And how I did it was, and I'm applying it in an analogous way where you will always be in my network and you will always be in my record if we have your consent to keep your contact, because we don't have opportunity, and that's just the way things are sometimes. It is not out of our control sometimes, but we do value your contribution and we will never forget about you. And there are networking opportunities. Do you want to come with me? So upcoming HR, for example, conference, you know, I welcome Lisa to come with me. Things like that, let's diversify your options so that you're not highly depending on me. Things like that, and it kind of balances out that way. And my learning is, yeah, I'm transparent, but I really need to watch it, right? Because I start liking her, and then yeah, those things happen, right? So, yeah.
I'll be cognizant of time.
Sure.
It is 11:30. We've got one more question.
And one more point is that the intern that was with you, Alex, now has an opportunity at your competitor that he perhaps wouldn't have otherwise had. And So there's huge value that you're bringing to your entire industry, and your competitor at some point might do the same thing. You might have an an opening. So there's global value for all the companies in this. It's an initial disappointment, I think, for that candidate. But when they go forward and realize how their career is launched, they're like eternally grateful to you because you launched their career, and they're at this other company now.
I like that comment, Diane. Yeah, because one last comment, I'm so talkative, but yeah, that we look outside the box. I guess this is a really good literal example. Look outside the box. The opportunity is not only here. Other than putting in your resume, we're always in LinkedIn. I can put a recommendation for you. It doesn't end from here. This is just the beginning. So it's a good way of,
Yeah, because I'm a Maple client, so that was the first thing I asked David. I know there's no guarantees, but would I get like a reference letter at the end of my mentorship period, or will I have a recommendation? Because that for me is an added value. Just to be exposed to the Canadian workplace, the do's and don'ts, and it's a full-time job. I'm volunteering at so many societies, but for me, this program is different from just volunteering a few hours doing different jobs.
Can I quickly say while asking questions? so we're considering, or I'm considering bringing this in, just not for any reason, and having also social responsibility in the organization. But I don't want, and my question is, do I set up and say it's a 3-month mentorship period, done, that's it. And you may apply, but you cannot move into a direct position. Because at work, there's no guarantee. I just don't want to see, because we've done some of those paid mentorships, and I don't want to have that repetitive losing experience. People, newcomers coming to the country, not getting a job, highly qualified, going to a mentorship, hope, and then, oh, no, I'm not good enough. Go to another one, oh, I'm not good enough. I was playing with the idea to say, it's not about job, it's about work experience, to make it competitive and give yourself a sell, but it's no hiring, and actually say no hiring, rather than say no guarantee. I'm just not sure.
The other, we've taken, Caroline and I, in our agency, we've probably had about 6 or 7, I'm thinking, like quite a few. And we only can take them because we're in disability services side. We take them in our administration and our finance department. And so, I've had huge successes, and most of the time it's no funding. We have no money, like none. But I'd be really happy to give you great experience. I would really be happy to talk about the culture, to talk about how we do finance in Canada, about how payroll is done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to learn the basics of what they want to know. And we have no job openings. We don't have any. Come on. But out of it, I was able to hire 3 or 4, I think, in all we've had. Just luck. It just fell into place. They stayed, right? So they were open to apply for the position just like anybody else, but because they had already had that experience with us, bang on, right? You've already jumped that. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see though, some people, it works really well, but it doesn't always work really well. And it's a hard experience in a way, and it's a learning experience for me to realize, what you were saying about you have to be careful what people's expectations are, and you have to also look at how you're being maybe influenced by what they've done for you. And so it's been a great experience, but actually it's a hard learning too. Yeah.
And knowing that they're from, they're immigrants, new immigrants, they're more sensitive to our nonverbal intonation. Or it's amazing, and it's a learning,
Well, I'm an immigrant too. I've been here a lot longer, but it's interesting to see how people are going through that same experience.
Thank you for that.
I think it really comes down to creating a really strong partnership between the agency that's making the placements and the employer, and it's really a 3-way partnership, right? It's the employer, it's the agency, it's the intern, and it's just about being transparent. It would be we also advocate with the employer to, if there is an opening, can this person apply as maybe an internal candidate, you know? Can they be given that advantage? So there's many sort of permutations, combinations and things that we have, you know, that we worked out.
Because my learning was, I was proposing for Louisa, right? And I had no idea if I were going to be given approval from the VP of HR in Singapore, and I had to go through with my manager in the US. So it's just, and at the same time, I didn't want to lose her because I was in the middle. So I was really in a very bad spot because I needed her. So I wanted to please don't apply some other company. So of course I didn't say that, but so I'm like, I'm taking this risk. You can do whatever you want. I know that your term is almost ending. Feel free to do that. But at the end, behind her back, I'm like making a sign of a cross, like things like that. Like, please, I don't want to lose her, something like that. And so somehow my probably the way I show her when I engage with her, it seems to sense that, oh, she's working on it, things like that. And then I did not have anything written, right? So I just got lucky that finally I had to force for it because it's just kind of, it was really neat for me, but I got somehow lucky. Well, there are many things that are not out of our control. If it were out of us, we would. But there are certain approvals that are not in our hands, and then that's when the whole thing just go downhill, your relationship with this person and all that. So yeah, it's quite a dangerous word, proposing for it, or we're working on it. I'd rather not the next time around. Yeah, if I were to make an advice, yeah.
Sounds good. There we go. Well, on behalf of Maple 2.0, on behalf of the Immigrant Services Calgary, and on behalf of the talent pool, we want to thank all of you for coming today. Greatly appreciated. I also want to thank our panel members today, Derek, Alex, and Joy, for taking their time and their effort to come here and explain about everything that they work with diversity, with mentorship, with bringing in newcomers and having them work on that